Hey everybody, Richie here from Reckless Pixel and LensWizard.com, at LensWizard on Instagram. And in today's video for Lightroom beginners, we're going to talk about what's going on in this basic panel right here and just kind of go through this. And I'm going to give you some tips and some pointers on how to navigate through it a little bit quicker, how to even set it up so that you only see this panel and it doesn't look cluttered. So again, this is for Lightroom beginners. So let's jump right into this. And one of the very first questions I get for someone that has just unpacked Lightroom and is trying to navigate through it, and I've had this happen actually several times. They say, I can't find the basic panel. So like if you're right here and you're seeing, you have an image opened up and you're looking at it, but if you have this same view over here in the library panel, you're looking at an image, but there's nothing over here for making an edit, no controls. So you have to be in the develop module, and some people don't know that. They might even have their bar turned off at the top. So like, if you bring your cursor up there, you see stuff, but if you don't move the cursor up there, you don't see anything. So first let's open that bar back up. So one of the things you can do is just hit the keyboard shortcut, no matter where you're at, hit the keyboard shortcut of D, and that's just going to take you right over to the develop module, and from there you can open up your basic panel. Now, one of the things before we get into this panel, I want to show you how I set this up that works for me. And I have one panel open, I have split toning, and then I go to open, just say tone curve, and you notice split toning automatically closed. It didn't stay open. So I go up here to basic and I hit that, and now the previous panel closed. And you can set this to do this by just anywhere right clicking here or even down here and right click and make sure you have solo mode ticked. And if you have solo mode ticked, that is going to let you accomplish this. Like each thing that you go and click on and open, it'll close the previous one. I find that I like to work this way because it's not cluttered, and it just, everything that I need to see, I see, and everything I don't need to see is not there. Okay, so let's get started. And right up here at the top, and just first let me say, the way this is laid out is very intuitive in the way that you would edit a photo for the most part, from top to bottom. So if we were going to edit this photo of Nicole, the very first thing, the very first choice I think that would be made is it going to be a black and white or is it going to be a color? So if it was going to be a black and white, we might want to go over here and click on black and white. Now this can also be achieved real simply by the keyboard shortcut of V. V as in Victor, and you can just keep hitting the V and going back and forth to see what you like. But for all intent purposes, we're going to leave it as a color for today's video. And then the very next thing that we have down here is our profile. Now this is what I had the camera profile set to. Inside the camera, I was shooting with a Canon camera and I was shooting RAW and JPEG together. If you look over here at the file, you see it's a CR2 RAW, and then it has a JPEG. And so when I get over here, I had this set to camera neutral, and it shows up here. And if I open this up, I also have pretty much the same choices that I would have in my camera, except now they say Adobe in front of them. And just for example, if we go to Adobe's neutral, well, it's even more neutral. And actually, I like Adobe's neutral for what it is that I want to do. A lot of people keep their camera set to standard, and that's fine, but I'm just showing you that that's what is going on right here in this panel. So, or in this particular label here of profile. Now there's also a lot of other stuff that's going to go on if we click into browse, and I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to do a separate video specifically for that. So for right now, we're just going to stick here with Adobe neutral. Now the very next thing we see is we see white balance. And again, I'm not going to dive real deep into this one because there's a whole lot that can be said about white balance, and I'm going to do a separate video for that as well. I did all these videos back in 2014 and 15, and now I'm going to update them again. So with this, for a basic edit, what I would do is I would probably go through and I would choose auto just to see what it's going to do, just to see what it's doing. And it's giving me 4750 plus 8. And if I go back to as shot, it was 4550 plus 10. So it kind of moved the numbers around a little bit, made it a little bit warmer. Now this was shot, just so you know, this was shot on a rainy day, and it was actually raining, so you can see the raindrops coming down there. Her hair is wet and she has her raincoat on. So for all intent guesses, we could say we could go with probably cloudy. And if we made that decision, it's not so good. Well, it gives us this very, hot tinted image that is nothing like what it looked like when I was shooting her. So let's go back to auto, and we're just going to leave it at that. Now we move down here, and the very next thing we have is we have two choices here. We have tone and auto, and this is one that a lot of new people that are beginners in Lightroom, they overlook this because this one is highlighted and this one never highlights. Hardly ever, and you'll see in a second. So we know what auto is. Everybody kind of knows what auto is going to do. So let's just hit auto, and we see that, based on Adobe Lightroom's algorithms, it has said this image needs to look like this to be pretty good. And then you can tweak it from there, or you can just leave it like that if this is what you like. So now, but just say we want to go back. So if we want to go back, well, we could hit Control Z on the keyboard. If we hit Control Z, obviously that takes us back. But here's something else you can also do, and you can move over tone. And if you move over tone, nothing still happens. It doesn't highlight. And to me, this is kind of a bug in Lightroom, but this is just the way it is. So if you double click on it, it takes everything back. Or does it? So if you look down, you have vibrance and saturation are still stuck over there where they used to be, where they were with the auto. So I don't know why it does that. It's just one of those things. But now here is a real quick tip that can work for all kinds of things with these sliders. And that is, instead of just moving it back manually or hitting Control Z or something, if you just move over the label, you can double click it, or if you move over the little handle itself, double click it, either the handle or the label, and it will take you right back to, it'll zero it out, in other words. So let's go up and let's just hit auto again and go down. Well, we know pretty much what exposure is, and we know what contrast, highlights, these kind of things, but let's move these around a little bit. So we grab this and we move it. And one of the first things that most people will notice is it's hard to stop at an exact spot. You're basically going to eyeball your edit, but what if there is a particular number for whatever reason? Maybe you have OCD. Maybe you're just a numbers person or whatever. But if you want to go and move this thing a lot finer, if you just do exactly what I'm about to say. Now, follow exactly what I'm about to say, and that is I'm rolling my cursor over top of that handle. My hand is now off of my mouse, and I'm just going to left click one time on that handle. And now the only thing I'm touching is the scroll wheel. And if I move the scroll wheel, you notice how I move in increments of 10. Either way I go. And this is what I like to do when I actually make the fine-tuned edit. I will do it like this. Okay, and how I like to think of it, I know this sounds crazy, but I like to think of it like landing a plane. So like when you're first getting the eye of the runway, eyeing up the runway as you're approaching it, and you're making your flyover, you might make more drastic changes. But as you make that final approach and you're getting ready to do your final edit, then we can just do something like this. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but I equate it to flying a plane. Okay, so now as we move on down, I'm going to hit this to auto again. As we move on down, this is what we have here. Highlights, everybody pretty much knows. Shadows. Now this is white and black point, and I'm not going to go real deep into that for a beginner. But just know that when you hit auto, it set your white and your black point based upon what your exposure was. And if you change this exposure up here, it doesn't change anything down here unless you hold your shift key, and then double click the whites, double click the blacks, and it will put that black point and white point back where it needs to be. So now as we jump on down here to this bottom part, well, now we see we have these three have never been changed. Even though we hit auto, whoops, that is auto white balance, and we don't want auto white balance. We want auto tone. These three have never changed at all. These are three that you're going to work manually, and these are more of like creative choices. And so let's start at the bottom and go with dehaze. Dehaze is just, and we're going to exaggerate it, right? We're going to exaggerate it, and you kind of see that it's just like a different kind of contrast that it adds. So I'm going to zero it out, and now I'm going to do my fine tune, and I'm going to, for this image, I would typically take it up to about 20. Dehaze works really great on landscape photos shot in the daytime that might have a lot of haze in them. That's how I think it gets the name dehaze, but you can use it in any image really as you see fit. Now the next thing we're going to go is clarity, and clarity is one I typically don't use it that much. Sometimes in landscape photos do I use it in the plus way, but in the minus way, now just look at the minus. If we look at her, it just really is horrible if you take it all the way down. So this is something that, and even if you go all the way up, it's kind of horrible. So this is something you're going to use in little bits. And how I like to use it, and this is a perfect example right here, I would put it about minus 20, maybe 25, but for this image, I'm going to go minus 20. Softens the skin a little, and it just makes, that's about as much as I would use it. Okay, and now the next thing is texture. And again, I'm going to zoom in here. Texture is one of those ones. It's very similar to clarity in some sense. But notice when I take it all the way down, it kind of softened the whole image, but it didn't do that strange thing with the hair. So as I start to bring it back up, you're going to notice the raindrops are more visible. The ISO texture is more visible. But again, where I like to use this, and I do a lot of face editing anyway, is I would probably take it to about minus 15 or 20 and leave it right there. So that's pretty much the basic overview of what's going on here in this basic panel. And if you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe, come back to the channel, especially if you're new to Lightroom. If you're not new to Lightroom and you've seen this and you know somebody who is new to Lightroom, turn them on to this. Some videos, I find tutorial videos jump in too over the head for somebody who's just very, very first unpacking Lightroom and getting into it. So I try to put it in a little bit of a way that makes it a little bit easier and show a few little tips and tricks along the way. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video, and have a great day.